This is Odin's Wolf Survival in the great forests of Kansas. Yesterday it was blisteringly hot. So it was blisteringly hot yesterday, as I said. So I decided to go out to the Bog of Stench and collect some cattails to make cordage and a few other things. But it was well over 100 here, and I wasn't feeling real great because I'm not supposed to be out in the heat quite yet, but I did it anyway. And on top of it, almost took a header into the Bog of Stench. I don't know what was up. I think the bottom was turning, but it was incredibly nasty. In any case, I got what I was after without getting wet or into the Bog of Stench, so everything worked out quite well. What I'm doing here is peeling the leaves off, the outer leaves, and most of the time they have cattail snot on the inside, and that's what the little jar there was for. But since it sat out in the heat of the day for a full day, the cattail snot's pretty well dried up. So I'll have to go back and collect some more cattail snot because it's good for, say skin ailments and wounds and toothaches and all kinds of neat stuff. It works pretty well. What I'm doing there is pulling the real fine, clear edges off the inside of the leaves. As you pull them out, the inside leaves have a lot more of it, but I'm trying to collect up a bunch. As I didn't cut a huge amount of cattails, I just wanted to do enough to make a little bit of cordage and do a demonstration on how to do it and have some leaves and stuff drying so I can do a few other projects down the road with them. As you see, you peel that off and lay it out to where you can get at it. Got to watch the wind because that stuff is light. It doesn't weigh anything until it's the wind likes to make it sail if it gets it. Especially in the great forests of Kansas, it's always windy here, and seems like it's always windy and will always be windy. And if it's calm, better watch out because the wind's just waiting to get you. But in any case, just keep pulling that stuff out repeatedly and then stack it up as much as you need, and it's always going to take more than what you think you need. This is a very speeded up part of the process of stripping out cattail leaves and their inner bit for the string. So we'll let this run for a bit, and it's where I'm stacking up materials. It's pretty easy to do. I'm pretty quick at it, but I'm not this quick. The cattail is mostly edible. The roots you can roast and make flour out of. The pollen makes really good high nutritious bread additive, things along that line. It's really good for you. That white bit that I just cut out, the inner stalk, you can cut up and add it to stews, soups, eat it just the way it is. It's actually not too bad. I'm collecting some of that. It's not too bad. I'm gonna add it into some squash that I'm cooking, things along that line. And again, we're going fast clearing this up, stripping off the inner bark, putting the leaves aside I'm going to try to do a basket. We'll see how that works out. And I got a few cattail heads that a friend wanted some for his pond as a resource, so we're going to see how that goes. And the stalks, I think I'm going to try another video, which we'll see how that goes, sort of like a rush light. We'll see. It might work, it might not. As we'll find out. I'll do a video either way. I've got a good idea for it, and we'll see what happens. Like I said, strip that out. We got a pretty good bundle right there to start the cordage, and now we'll be starting the cordage. Okay, to make cordage with this, you take a few of the finer strands like that, depending on how big your cordage is that you want. Stack them together or use one. You can make cordage as fine as sewing thread today with this stuff. It works pretty good. It's tedious. I've done it, and it works pretty well. It's stronger than what you'd think. But to do the cordage, I'll grab hold of several of them with my left hand, since I'm right-handed, and then twist overhand, which would be, if you're looking down the cord from my right hand, it would be clockwise. So you're twisting clockwise. You know, you're twisting counterclockwise with your left hand and clockwise with your right hand, if that makes any sense. And that twists it up faster, and you twist it tight enough that it wants to fold back on itself. As you can see inside my fingers, the end. And then you, as you're twisting each strand, that doubles it up, you twist each strand clockwise and then pull it back over itself counterclockwise. If you're right-handed, do the exact opposite if you're left-handed. I can do it both ways, but my left hand's stupid, so I have to stop and think about it and actually work it out in my head before I go to do it. Then I can do it. It's not natural. I'm definitely not left-handed. I wasn't wired that way. I can do a lot of stuff left-handed, but it takes longer, and it's probably pretty entertaining to watch. I might have to get that on video and actually see if I want to put that out there, but it can be done. And it's pretty easy. The only reason I do it left-handed is if I'm sitting across from somebody teaching them how to make cordage, then it looks normal to them, how they're seeing it, instead of looking backwards, which tends to make it easier to learn if you can do it with your offhand. But you just keep doing the process until you get it out to however long you want it, which depends on what you're needing. If I'm making fishing line, it's usually about 2 feet. If I'm making bank line, it is more in the lines of about 10 yards, or depending on how much, which would be a real. When you're processing materials like this, 10 yards of materials, it's not insubstantial, and it takes some time. They used to make nets this way back in the day. I mean, like, you know, thousands of years ago. They'd make nets this way, which would take the time of a whole village. But yet, once you had a net done, you could feed the village with it for a period of time. All you had to do was keep it in good repair. As long as somebody didn't steal it or didn't get burned or things along that line. They found nets made out of human hair in the southwest of the United States for catching rabbits. So, you know, they've been around forever and made with different materials. So, you know, all the old ships, especially the really early ones, the rope and stuff like this, and was done kind of this way. I think they were using probably drop spindles to actually spin the material faster. I have done that. Used 2 drop spindles in pairs to make cordage, and then once you got that far, it works amazingly fast if you're using something with long fibers or twisting out a yarn out of animal fiber, and then you can turn it into cordage, which you can turn into rope that makes, you know, you can do rigging for ships, you can do whatever you need with it. Well ropes, because they found some fantastic oaken wells in Germany that was done Stone Age stuff, and oak beams fitted together, all carved together out of stone, which the skill of those craftsmen is unreal. So, and they were deep enough that they would have needed rope like this with a bucket or of some sort to get the water out. You know, I really doubt that they hung somebody down there with a bucket to get the water out. You know, that's counterproductive. If you have the skill set to make oak sides on a well that's 18 meters deep or so, you have the skill set to make a rope in a bucket. And just keep twisting that up. You can get your splices to where they won't even hardly show with a little bit of work at it. And you, as your fiber bundle on each side gets thinner, add a piece in. It's, you know, I fold it back on itself, run one leg down, the short leg down the thicker side, and then the long leg down the piece that I'm trying to add in. And you just keep doing that the whole way down until, you know, you can, and once you get good at it, you can keep the size pretty well spot on all the way down. I'm not really paying that much attention to it there. It's growing in size as I'm, you know, that's kind of, I'm just trying to throw a demonstration out there. And if I stop at 2 feet, that's about what I use for what I'd consider a good fishing line for this. Tie it to a pole, hook it to, glue it, pine pitch it, whatever you have, to what sort of hook you make, gorge hook, bird bone hook, whatever you find, thorn hook. Your rose thorns work pretty good. To the end of this, about 2 feet long is all you really need. Get it in the water, and actually the less line that you make out of natural cordage until you get pretty good at it, the less risk there is of it breaking. So that'll keep things in perspective. Not only that, you're not sitting there for a whole day trying to make 10 yards of fishing line that you can whip out in the river like we cast out today. That's not really necessary. Just tie 2 feet on. You can make a bunch of little 2-foot sections, tie them onto a whole bunch of branches that you have hanging low into the water, a little bit of hook and a little bit of bait, and go about your other business doing other things that you need to get done. Come back and check your stuff fairly regular, and it should keep you fed if things are okay. Now, in a lot of cases, gorge hooks I don't think are really legal in a lot of the part of the country, and it's really kind of you'll bring a lot of hate down if you get caught using gorge hooks. They work, but I don't even think they're legal here. I'm not going to try them unless I'm in a bad spot. Then I don't really care. About the time they come out to write you the ticket for the gorge hook that can take you back into civilization and get you out of the situation that you got into where you had to use the gorge hook. You can make cordage pretty fast once you get used to it. I've done this once or twice, and no, this isn't a sped up video, so that's about how fast I'm working right there. I can go a little faster. It's a lot faster where I practice with jute. I go get some cheap jute cord, and we'll have it just sit there and practice the twist, and get your fingers used to it and your hands used to it. Have a glorious day. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much for watching.